Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. This is your host, Steve Ramona, and I'm going to be very honest with you. This may be an emotional show, but it's going to be so powerful because my guest is doing incredible things with people with cancer and being able to help them navigate through that and just be better people. We all know when we hear that C word, it's scary, whether it's us or somebody we know. And we're going to walk through this and help you all with this. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. Thank you for having me on. What an honor.
No, it's my pleasure. This is a tough subject, but it's an important subject to talk about. What is your definition of a young adult?
Young adults, at least our organization, you'll find in the research, but what it is, but we define it as anyone diagnosed with cancer between the ages of 18 and 45. This is the first year that we moved it up to 45. It originally was 18 to 39, but I've had too many people ask if they're going to get kicked out because they're turning 40, or I have 41, 42-year-olds with still young kids these days asking for support, and I can't find it in my heart to say no. So we have had enough trend that was the reason why we bumped it up to 45.
Why this age group?
Because I personally experienced leukemia as a young adult and firsthand realized very quickly how unique and different it is to have cancer as a young adult versus a kid, a teen, or an older adult who has already had an established life. So when I realized it, and being by far the youngest patient, inpatient and outpatient, when I was getting treated, I was everyone's grandchild and no one could relate to what I was experiencing. And it was 2 weeks before my junior year in college, and I had no idea what cancer was, what it entailed, how treatment worked, if I was going to survive. And I lost friends through it all. My family was by my side, but I lost my identity and just different challenges of being a college student and having to go back a year later with intense fatigue and neuropathy and no hair. I mean, I had an inch-long hair when I went back to school. So there's so many different issues that we experience as young adults that I couldn't just sit on that and let it remain a gap in the resources and in the community. And at the time, at least for my experience, there was no resources available. There was only one, and it happened to be out by you in the West Coast. And it was arts driven, and I wasn't an arts person. And so it didn't apply to me. And there was literally nothing else. Young adult cancer wasn't even a term back then. So I was on a mission to close that gap and build a community here in our region in Western Pennsylvania. And I've been on a mission ever since.
I'm going to ask you a tough question. It has to deal with healthcare and the hospital. I love what you're doing. We'll talk more about that. But why aren't the hospital doing the things that you're doing with your nonprofit?
What was your question? Why aren't they?
Why aren't they? Why can't I'm in a hospital, they're treating me. They can go out and get these resources that you're doing so well for everybody.
I think first and foremost, the volume of young adults in adult cancer centers is still pretty low. So for the longest time, they didn't see it as a priority or a need. It took me many, many years to convince, or at least our local ones, on why it still needs to be a priority, even if the volume is small. The other challenge is there's a term called AYA in society today. It's adolescent and young adult cancer. A lot of times they want to group us from 15 to 39-year-olds. And if you imagine your developmental stages during those years, it's very different. And at least in Pittsburgh, we have a children's hospital and we have adult cancer centers. There's no bridge between them. And so I think that what I'm hearing already in today's world, when I talk to the professionals at the cancer centers, I'm a huge advocate, obviously. Services that we're providing are services that they can't. So like, for example, financial assistance. They cannot provide financial assistance for many reasons. They don't provide support groups because if you think about it, when you're treated there, I don't want to go back there for a support group. I don't want to go back there unless I have to go back there for treatment or a medical appointment. And so they're finding that the community resources are making a greater impact versus always going back to that hospital setting, if you will, because it can be traumatic and triggering.
Yeah, and I like that because, go ahead.
I was going to say they appreciate all that we're doing, so that increases our partnership and collaborative opportunities. So it's actually, and that's where
that's probably I should ask the question, but because people see the hospital as the end all be all. That's where everything happens, and I got to go outside and go talk to somebody else. it could kind of be complex. I've kind of dealt
Mhm.
with that myself, and you've dealt with it a lot. So when talking with young adults, what resources do you provide?
We have a model that provides emotional, social, and financial support. So all of our programs fall under one of those pillars. So, for example, we have virtual support groups weekly. We have a monthly self-love workshop. We had a grant last year, and we had another one for this upcoming year to provide free counseling for our members. They can do it in person or virtual, up to 12 sessions. I mean, that's huge for them. So they don't have to spend the time navigating, finding a therapist, a counselor, who understands young adult cancer and kind of fits them and matches them. We can provide it right then and there. We have virtual and in-person monthly socials. So every other month, for example, we have virtual paint nights. We have an upcoming hot cocoa tasting night. So these are fun things. We have a virtual bingo night coming up. We just had a virtual talent show that we offered for our members. So it's nice because they can join from the comfort of their own home. They don't have to travel. Some of our in-person socials include pirate games in the summer. We have our annual potluck Thanksgiving dinner in a couple weeks. We have a holiday party coming up in December. We have game nights in our office. We had a member party in the summer. So we try to switch it up and provide different opportunities for them to not only get the support, but also have fun and feel like themselves again and feel quote unquote normal. The third pillar is the financial assistance. So we provide $500. We pay directly to the vendors for help with medical bills, rent, mortgage, utility bills, integrative oncology services, fertility preservation costs, which is thousands of dollars. But 50% over the past 2 years of our applicants need help with basic needs, helping to make ends meet, put food on the table, put fuel in their cars, to travel to treatments. I literally last month, or if not 2 months ago, I had treatment nurses call me and say, our staff is stressed because these young adults don't have the means to put fuel in their cars to get to appointments. So their treatments are delayed. They're not coming to me with their doctors because they can't physically get there. They don't have the money to pay for an Uber ride. So we're partnering with them now to raise more money in hopes of increasing our financial assistance amount from 500 to hopefully 750 next year. But it depends on how much we raise. But it was cool that they came to me. They're also stressed.
Yeah, and I love the collaboration, and that's important because you're right. You don't see your doctor, your chances of living slim. I'm assuming less and
Uh-huh.
less appointments or more appointments you miss.
Yeah.
What's when you got diagnosed? Let's go back to you because it's an incredible story. God bless you. God, thank God that you're still here with us and doing such great things, and you're here for many years.
Thank you.
But what was your biggest fears after you had your diagnosis of leukemia?
But I was gonna die.
Yeah.
I was so sick, and being almost 20 years old in college, you want to ignore your symptoms, and no one really takes it seriously. And so I developed symptoms such as random bruising. I had a fever. I had some other things happening, but it happened so fast over the course of a couple weeks that when you hear the word cancer, and I heard the word leukemia, and there were two other girls in my high school within the 5-year span that also had leukemia, I just knew how sick they were, but I didn't know to the extent of like, how do they administer chemotherapy? You figure I went to the hospital on a Wednesday night. 2 days later, had a bone marrow biopsy. A day later, I was in the hospital by myself, waiting for my parents to arrive. When the oncologist walked in, confirmed it was leukemia, walked right out. 2 days later, I started chemo. So it was like not even a week from when I went to the hospital to when chemo was starting. And the first thought I had was, am I going to survive this? Because I was so sick. And when they told me I had to take a year off of college to be treated, that was just awful, So you wonder, A, am I going to survive this? B, what's life like after this if I do survive it? And C, like, what am I going to do with my life? Because you have so many side effects and financial challenges. I mean, my family, thank God, paid off my credit card debt, but like, I don't have, not everyone has that, and I still hold guilt over that. And this has been 18 years.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of thoughts, but the biggest one was, am I going to survive it? And I actually had the guts to ask one of the doctors, I said, if I had ignored my symptoms, what would have happened? He said, 2 weeks later, you wouldn't be here. If I delayed
Wow.
it 2 weeks, because it was just eating away all my blood cells. Your platelet count, which helps you clot, the low normal range is 150,000. Mine were 10,000 when I was diagnosed. So like I could have bled out and with the simplest thing. It's just scary. It's you're scared to death. You wonder, are you going to ever get married? And am I going to be able to go back to school? And so many thoughts, but it all starts with, will I survive?
How'd you overcome them?
Well, I was in the hospital initially for 3 weeks inpatient, and throughout those weeks, my family rallied and they kind of made it fun. One of the doctors, you figure we're in Pittsburgh, our rival is Cleveland, and one of the doctors was from Cleveland, and the Steelers were playing the Browns one day in the hospital. So we had a kind of betting contest, not money, but just like ego. And so we kind of made fun, and everyone would send me cards. We'd put the cards on my hospital room on the walls. And 3 weeks after leaving the hospital, we walked the Leukemia Lymphoma Society's Light the Night Walk. And so I started seeing light, and there was something in me within those first 3 weeks when I really dug deep and was like, I got this. I'm going to beat this. Like, I can do this. And the more I kept telling myself, the more I believed it. And I'm not kidding. Like 2 months after I left the hospital, was really in the thick of treatment. I gained about 35 pounds from the steroids the first 3 weeks I was diagnosed. And 2 months later, I lost over 60 pounds. I mean, I looked like the typical cancer patient. And yeah, and even though those were my darkest days, I still had something in me, whether it was the man up above or just my faith, that I was going to overcome this. And I think what also helped is I would share my story. And the more I shared my story, the people couldn't believe how positive my attitude was. And the encouragement that I got from sharing my story, just the fact that I was open with it and honest with people, I think it just fueled my motivation to continue to beat it and to share it. And I think that gave people, when I gave people hope by sharing my story, it gave me hope right back that I had to continue doing that. So it was almost like a domino effect. The more I shared it, the more I received inspiration, the more I wanted to share more. In 2007, I started speaking at like UPMC is here. I spoke at their annual gala, and I was the Fighting Spirit Award recipient for American Cancer Society's gala one year. And that all just gave me more fuel and inspiration to continue doing what I was doing, if you will, if that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense there. It just comes from within. And I always said in my first speech, I'll never forget, I believe that it can't all be medicine. Medicine saved my life, but I think it's also attitude and your outlook. We have a guy right now who is, he had a recurrence of sarcoma, and the outcome, the prognosis typically is not good. But his attitude is amazing. Like, he had a second opinion. He's traveling for treatment once a month, and his outlook is amazing. And he's like, I'm going to be fine. Whether he is or not, I do think it'll prolong his life. So if everyone can get in that mindset and not just feel like they have to do it alone, and not feel like there's such a burden, because we all feel that at times, because we all need help at times. When you can get in that mindset and join other people and listen to other people and receive the support and give the support when you feel okay to do so, I just think that's a recipe for hope.
Yeah, I got goosebumps right now. I'm just going through your story. I'm sure listeners are too. Some are. It's amazing. And the thing I got from that story you just told me is mindset and support are almost vital for you to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure someone out there would contradict it, but I think it's a mixture of both, of your attitude and the medicine. I know there's some people out there that they go holistic with their treatment, and that's fine. You know, pick what works best for you, but don't feel like you have to do this alone, because that's a killer.
Yes. We have a podcast about serving, and I talk about serving. How are you really serving these young adults with cancer?
My first thought is providing them with an abundance of love. You know, there's no judgment, and they didn't cause this. And I remind them all the time, it's not your fault. And I'm about to get teary-eyed. They need to hear that, because they're not hearing it from family or friends or colleagues at work, they're trying to hide it and disclose it because they're shameful at times. And the amount of money that they lose or don't even have when they're diagnosed, it is so terrifying that they don't even want to admit it. And so I can see that because I have been diagnosed as a young adult, that I think serving them with support, love, reminding them that there are peers who want to be there for them, and honestly just serving them as we provide a platform, a community, if you will. They know there's a welcoming stage and a safe space for them to be them. They don't have to perform. They don't have to fake anything. They don't have to come with like an agenda. They don't have to put on a certain face, to be themselves. I want them to be their authentic selves. And I think when they feel that, and it's true, it's authentic, then I think they feel safe, they feel supported, and then they feel like they can enter into a world of this space where they can take and pick and choose what
Yeah.
support is going to be most helpful for them. And I think serving with a variety of programs also is a great platform, if you will, to provide them, because it's not a one size fits all. It's never going to be. And so it's nice that we can partner with other organizations that might only provide financial assistance or might only provide mentorship. We can provide a little bit of this and a little bit of that, where they can take and pick and choose. Because as you know, when you're diagnosed, when you're in treatment, you have your blinders on. It's survival mode. When treatment ends and they're like, okay, ring that bell and go on, live your life. You don't know who the heck you are. Your needs are different, is where I'm going with that. And so
Yeah.
it's nice that we provide this variety of programming so that at different times and different stages of their lives throughout treatment and beyond, they can then select different programs depending on what their needs are in that moment. Because we provide it from diagnosis to long-term survivorship. People will say to me, like, when am I going to get kicked out? And I say, be a lifer. If it's helpful for you, we don't care. As long as you're diagnosed within that age range, stay as long as you need to.
Yeah. And that's powerful. And your resources help with the mindset, the support, all this to make it, because your life changed the day you got the prognosis, the
Yes.
diagnosis.
Yes. Yep.
And that's got to be a challenge in itself for these young adults to navigate through this life change. I'm going to be a pro football player. I'm going to do this, married to me, and that gets blown up in their face. Hate to say it that way, but
some have like traveled the world, and then they get these symptoms internationally, and then they fly home only to get a cancer diagnosis, or they want to be a professional athlete, or I've had patients, here we go, with like 4-week-old firstborn child, 4 weeks old, diagnosed, 3-month-old child diagnosed, and one survived and one didn't. So you celebrate life with this new family, and then everything changes. We've had people who got divorced and then 2 months later diagnosed. It's just, it hits home at the worst time of our lives, in my humble opinion, when we're just trying to build it as independently as we can.
Yeah.
So,
it's powerful. Yeah, I wish we could find a cure. I know today we're better than 11 years when I was diagnosed with skin cancer. Nothing serious, but still, as I tell the story, and it's not about me, but when I heard the C word, I called my best friend Mike, and I lost it. And it wasn't a big deal. I mean, it was a deal, but it wasn't a bad diagnosis. To hear what you're doing and saying about these people, it's just, my heart's pumping, because I don't know what I would do or what I would have done, but having you support, God bless you.
Well, Steve, I mean, I caught you saying like it's not as bad, but like it's individualized. I'll never forget years ago when I was still building this community, if you will, and I had a guy who was diagnosed with testicular cancer in his late 20s, and it was stage 1. He had to have surgery, and he didn't need anything else. And he struggled more than I have had other people with advanced cancers. Like, it's just individualized. It's where you are in your life. It's the support system that you have. It's everything. It's your socioeconomic status. And he's fine now, but it took so long because of just him being diagnosed with that C word. Even though the prognosis was great, the fact that he had to hear that and now consider himself a survivor, like that alone was traumatizing for him. So I always have to myself, I have to just put a stop to it and be like, it doesn't matter. There's not a better cancer than the others. And then hearing from the doctors at times, oh, it's a good cancer you have. There's no such thing
Yeah.
as a good
Yeah.
cancer.
No, that's well said, because you exactly went through some dark days and leaned on
Yeah.
him, my family, and my parents, and it was great. What is your prognosis right now?
Amazing. Fortunately, when I was diagnosed, they did say the prognosis was really good. I had what was called ALL leukemia, so it was acute. And even though treatment was brutal, the prognosis was really good. I have a brother and a sister, both older than me, and they tested them to see if they would be a match for a bone marrow transplant. I'm going to say, fortunately, they weren't, because I didn't need it. Had they been a match, one of them, I probably would have had a transplant as a preventive measure. But I never relapsed. 3 years, so we're talking 2008, I was done with all the meds, and I just had to go for follow-up appointments. And I have been 5 years after you're diagnosed with that type of cancer, you're considered cured, with quotes. So I
Yeah.
threw myself a big party. I threw myself a big party in 2010 for my 10-year anniversary. And I've been fine since. I feel like I'm healthier than I've ever been. I mean, I live a healthy lifestyle, that helps, but my only still side effect is neuropathy at times in my feet. And if that's the worst, I'll happily take it.
Amen. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that you mentioned, and we may have talked about in the green room, is go see your doctor. You have symptoms. Don't let it wait. What happens
Yes.
when you wait?
Exactly. I mean, it's hard because you don't want to be so paranoid, but at the same time, like I said in the beginning, had I waited 2 weeks, I would be dead. And so what I really want to get the message across, not only for young adults, but just anyone if they have symptoms, it is so common now to get a second opinion. Just because the doctors might say, oh, it's probably just anxiety or it's probably just inflammation. When you have these concerns over something you're experiencing, don't just accept that. If you're concerned and if you don't feel well, push back, be your best advocate. I know that's like always said in the oncology world now. Like if you go to any presentation, any educational seminars, that's what they're going to say. Be your best advocate, because you have to now more than ever. I've been in this field now with young adults, especially for 11 years, 12 years now. And it's getting, I hate to say this, it's getting worse in the healthcare system, the field with insurances and doctors just not listening, especially with this population. Like we don't have a voice to some of the healthcare professionals, and it's just that much more important to be that voice. And if you don't have it, find a navigator, find a social worker, find me,
Yeah.
because we do have the voices and we will advocate on behalf of other people. So yeah, it's so important.
Well said. And coming from a survivor, that's even more said. It's got more oomph, more impact. We're right out of time here. I'm going to bring you back for round two. God, it sounds like chemotherapy, but you know what I mean. Part two.
Yeah, I
Uh,
get it.
yeah, I know you do. I know you do. But what's a piece of advice you can, listener that's listening is either a survivor going through it or the family or support system that's part of it. What's a piece of advice you'd give them now?
For patients and survivors, definitely don't go about it alone. Even if you feel strong-minded, don't, because the connections that you make, either even myself personally and the members that I have supported throughout the years, when you have a friendship or a mentor to go through this and get hope and support and guidance and everything else. I mean, it's so much closer than just like you and I becoming friends. But I have the cancer diagnosis and you've never been diagnosed. It's different. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's different. And it makes it a whole heck of a lot easier. So don't do it alone. If you really want my personal opinion, when it comes to having cancer, if you get to the end of treatment, even if you're on, I have people who have advanced cancer and they're on chemo for life. Find the support in a group setting, find your community, but also get yourself some individual support, because all of our experiences are unique. Every single one of us has a different outlook, a different past, a different upbringing. So to have that individual, I don't care if it's a counselor, therapist, whatever, we all need at certain times our own support. I was 3 years out from treatment, everything, and that's when I crashed mentally. I had to find my counselor like that because it hit me 3 years afterwards. You never see that coming. So don't fight those emotions and feelings because support is out there more than ever now. For the families, if we're talking for young adults or just in general, get your own support too. You know, in the family dynamic, everyone experiences it differently. You know, my parents were so close to me, but the two of them weren't as best in their relationship at the time. I know that. Communicate as family, communicate with each other. And ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask openly to the patient and survivor. How can we best help? Do you need space? We want to honor that. There's times when I just needed to be alone and that was okay, but they were terrified when I did say that. And that's okay. I just think communication is utmost importance here because you can't read my mind when I can't read yours, especially when I'm going through something so scary. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't assume, but don't be afraid to ask questions. And that brings myself to another point of just because someone might look okay, look good, look healthy, doesn't mean that they are. Because oftentimes we as patients and survivors want to put on a happy face, you know, because we feel burdened. We don't want people to worry about us. But deep down inside, we are worried, you know, and don't be afraid to show emotion. This is a hard illness. And it's not like there's a beginning and an end. I mean, there is maybe with treatment, but it goes on forever. You're never going to forget what you go through. And sometimes people want to just put in the past and move on, and that's fine. But I know deep down, if they haven't dealt with it in some way or another, it's still lingering in here. And so I hate when people say like, oh, but you look great, so you must be doing well. It's not the case always. So never assume is don't read a book by its cover, right?
Just ask.
Just ask. Yeah.
Well, Stephanie, you're a true servant. You went through all this and you're giving back. That's why I have people like you on the show.
Appreciate it.
Hey, you know, if you're going through something, reach out to Stephanie. Her information will be in the chat, in the show notes. But I want to thank you again. This is a tough subject, but I think you ended it very well with some positive feedback and help that people can go out and get. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Steve. Likewise, it's been an honor. And, you know, I think in my life, I'm just trying to not make it such a taboo topic. So trying to normalize it. And I appreciate you having these hard conversations on here because it's hard for people to talk about in here, but it is so important that we continue doing it. So thank you.
You're
really
very welcome. Yeah, my pleasure. And listen to this a couple of times, listeners, if you want. Learn more, get some inspiration. That's what she's doing, motivation to get better, to survive. And we'll see you all on the next great episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.